Let's go to Bermuda now, and the America's Cup with Team New Zealand under repair following its collision with Britain's Ben Ainslie Racing, BAR. Not that today was racing weather any day. Anyway, with a lack of wind keeping all the teams off the water, but Team New Zealand couldn't have gone out if they wanted to. The Louis Vuitton qualifying series begins a week on Saturday. New Zealand is a little battered, still tweaking and wants more practice time on the water. But as we'll hear later, tweaking this late is a deliberate move. The team CEO Grant Dalton says there's much more pressure for the Louis Vuitton this time than there was at the same time in San Francisco, and perhaps the Ben Ainslie boat, hitting them from behind yesterday, is an example of that pressure playing out.
Well, it's a campaign that's been set up around Ben, and Ben is the most decorated Olympic sailing medalist of all time. He's won 4 golds and a silver. I mean, he's amazing. And we know Ben very well, and the reason for that is he worked for Team New Zealand for the Valencia campaign as the backup to Dean. So he was with us for 3 years, so we know him really well, and he's a good guy. But we also know that he can be, he just sometimes, as I said, red mist or brain explosion or whatever, and he missed time. That was one of those things. He's under a lot of pressure. It's a very royal campaign with the Duke and Duchess and all of that, and they're spending, a report of their words, £100 million. I mean, that is a lot of money for one of these campaigns in anybody's terms. So it's just, they are having speed problems. I don't think that's, being unreasonable to Ben. I think he would say exactly the same. And I just saw a missed time that could be a result of all of that, and maybe that's an overread. It was just one of those things.
Grant, if we look at the Louis Vuitton, and for people who don't know what that is, it's the Challenger Series. So the winner gets to race Oracle for the America's Cup. The early form suggests, I think, the contenders are you, obviously, Artemis, the Swedish team, SoftBank, the Japanese team under Dean Barker. The Brits a wee way back, not because of skill but speed, I think, and the French look to be a little bit off the pace. You owned the Louis Vuitton in San Francisco. I think from memory you only lost 1 race. Are you in that kind of position now?
Well, no, because we've got a lot to do still, and I know one of the lessons from San Francisco, and it's well reported, was that we peaked too early, but we just had nothing left. We had no development left. We'd finish our development cycle. So we're trying to run, and it's a pretty ragged edge, to be fair, a campaign this time between developing and never stopping, but still going racing and trying to be reliable. And a few of those things don't actually, like each other. Reliability and development often don't go well together. So you could easily lose. I mean, I don't mean to be unfair to the French, but they would say themselves, they're off the pace. Those are must-win races. You cannot give an easy race to the French because you broke down. And the whole thing could hinge around, there was a classic example, and Chris Dixon knows better than me, in Valencia, where he lost through a problem to the Chinese, and who were slow, and it became a defining moment for that campaign because it pitched him against the wrong team in the semi-finals, and he got knocked out. So the French and Ben are probably a little bit, off. But I don't think you can draw a line anywhere between Artemis, say, ourselves, and SoftBank. And in SoftBank you have Oracle. I mean, Oracle, you have SoftBank. They're exactly the same. Their compounds aren't even apart. They're the same, basically, joined buildings. And one is the same as the other. So they help each other. I mean, SoftBank's purpose in life is to help the defender hold on to the cup. It sounds weird, but that's how it's working. So I rate them because of the technology of Oracle.
Grant, I want to talk about the sort of balancing act. So you peaked too soon in San Francisco, and in Bermuda you want to constantly tweak and make yourself faster. But also, of course, you have to stay on the water because you don't want to lose to a team you should beat. So that's pretty precarious, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a balancing act that I think probably you find in high-level motor racing teams, particularly probably Formula One, where they're bringing upgrades in all the time, but they've still got to go racing every 2 weeks in the Formula One season. So people often make the comparison with F1 with what we do, and I've always thought, we're not exactly F1. They spend $500 million a year and have 500 people. But these boats are more, and these campaigns this time are more that way than they've ever been, and that's the advancements of technology.
I know it's not quite like Formula One in terms of costs, but boy, oh boy, as everyone knows, there is a lot of money in these teams. And I'm just wondering about the kind of pressure that you are beginning to feel now, because 4 teams are going home, and that's before the America's Cup. Are you feeling real pressure?
I think there's a lot more pressure this time than San Francisco at this stage. At this stage of San Francisco, we really had no handle on Oracle. We had no idea. We hadn't even started the Louis Vuitton that we were always going to win, because Artemis had crashed and wasn't up to anything, and Luna Rossa was our other boat. So we kind of knew where that was before we developed. So I personally didn't feel any pressure at that stage at all, and it wasn't really until we got into the Cup itself that the pressure came on. At this point in this time, there are very good teams, and they're all good. And particularly Artemis and the Japanese team, and BAR could come out yet with new appendages that could be really quick. So it's different pressure, and we're also under time pressure more than ever before in a campaign that I've been in, and that's a deliberate move to try and mix the deck up, try and learn the lessons of the past, and try and keep the development going as long as we possibly can to the very edge that we believe we can still be reliable and not have left anything on the table.
Grant Dalton speaking earlier from Bermuda.